Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the CFRP podcast. Today, we're going to talk about a topic which is very important to me personally, as well as my guests. In this episode, we'll be discussing the various elements of mental health, which is fitting, as when this video goes out on October 10th, it's World Mental Health Day. We'll be tackling difficult topics such as depression, anxiety, and OCD, and also explore questions like is lockdown making everyone's hair shorter? We will also be discussing some of the most popular misconceptions regarding mental health. My guests today are my fellow schoolmates who both study psychology. And yeah, how about you to introduce yourself to the podcast?
Yeah, hi. My name is Raya. As Arav said, I'm a DUT student and yeah, I study psychology.
Hi, my name is Vidhi and I go to MLSI as well.
So, mental health. It includes our emotional, psychological, and social well being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. It also helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. One key aspect of mental health is how individuals behave in relation to control or lack thereof.
Well, speaking of control, I read something recently about how humans react to situations where they don't have control. So, a good example could be the current pandemic. So, because of the situation, like it's very stressful, and therefore people often feel a loss of control because you don't know when it's going to end, you don't know what's happening, and therefore to try to get control back into your lives, you try to cut your hair or color it or something drastic. So I think that if you ever see people around you changing their hairstyles constantly, maybe it's a good time to reach out to them and ask them if something's bothering them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that sometimes everyone can get a bit overwhelmed and they feel like they need a certain change in their life. And that's gonna help them get by, help them feel better. Personally, I think it's worth it's worth it. Because the impact, in my opinion, is more psychological than physical. And when you embrace the change that comes along and you sort of take the change within yourself, I think that when you do that change, you may regret it, but for that time being, you may feel more comfortable with yourself. And I think it's worth it if it makes you happy.
Yeah, most people do feel better after they get a haircut, and I think that it helps them feel more in control because they control how they look. So yeah, I think it's actually very important, especially in situations like these.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. I do think that, as Raya said, it's worth it in the short run. And there have definitely been times where I've made regrettable choices, especially regarding my hair. But at that
Yeah,
time, I don't know.
exactly.
It's just something like if you can control a part of your life and like if you like it, I feel like you should just go ahead with it. So go bald, color your hair, dye it. So like along
Yeah.
similar lines, what do y'all think like someone should do when they don't feel like that they have control over anything?
Yeah, I think there are like a number of things that one can do. I think first one, if you feel like talk to someone close to you, because I think that opening up really does help you make you feel better. Um, I mean, the pandemic is something that we're all experiencing. It's not unique to any single person, like many other issues are. So if you feel comfortable sharing your feelings, go ahead and do that because that can go a really, really long way. And if you don't feel like talking it out, you can take like a few minutes to do something that you enjoy, whether it's like exercising, drawing, listening to music, watching some Netflix, whatever it is. um, if you don't feel like sharing, those are some things you can do. I think emotions are always better when they're expressed rather than like closeted and when you bottle it up. um, Sometimes we don't always feel comfortable sharing some stuff, and in those times maybe you can like write your thoughts down, in order to like process everything and understand the situation you're going through like fully. um, I think, in my opinion, I think a lot of the time emotions are like extremely bottled up, and
Mm.
people see it as being weak, and it makes you less strong, if you express your emotions. I think that's something that everyone needs to break away from, and it needs to be set aside, because this stigma around emotions and feelings, it's I think it's so unnecessary. And when emotions are expressed and everyone is open with each other, whether it's with your family, with your close ones, with your friends, even with a pet, that it's funny how like you can have so many people who can support you. When you share it with them, it's really not frowned upon as many people see it. So I think that's something that people can do.
I mean, yeah, I couldn't agree more. But like, don't you think that like, do you think it's sort of a gendered issue as well? Like, is there more of a stigma with men not talking about their emotions? Like, cause I don't know, like just from my social context and from my friends, feel like on average, like girls are more willing to talk about emotions and difficult topics, and it's almost seen as like men shouldn't. So, like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think when you look at society, you look at everything that's considered every like stereotype, whether it's emotions, whether it's like stereotypes that maybe um put onto certain communities. I think a lot of the times, especially with teenage guys, there's this whole um act of like being tough, being a man, which is a phrase that's so commonly thrown around by so many people.
Mm-hmm.
I think emotions are always seen as feminine or weak. Makes you less strong, and it means that you're fragile. And when you use such stereotypes, you're taking away the feelings of a person, because what else are they supposed to do? I mean, they're doing everything they can. So I think definitely there is a gender component, there is a sex component that can be applied to this, in my opinion.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. Like as I said, it's a concern that I have as well. So like we kind of derailed from the topic a bit. So like I just want to mention this one more thing. So like during the lockdown especially, it feels like this boredom that we all feel collectively. It goes on to go. It seems to go on for forever and ever. So I recently read this article actually on Psychology Today, and like I don't remember it for word by word, so I'm just paraphrasing here. So basically, it said that emotions don't actually last for a long time. It's just that they manipulate our perception of time. So like, let me give you an example. So imagine if you're feeling anxious, like going to the dentist. Did that like visit seem to go on forever? You were like, When's this gonna end? When's this gonna end?" Now think of the last time like you did something like fun. Like let's say you went to the mall with your friends. Did time just seem to fly by? So I mean, the likely answer that everyone would have to this is yes. And this is because emotions sort of hijack our perception of time. And in fact, the like in the midst of feeling an emotion, they completely like we are colored by that emotion. So like let's say if we're feeling anxious, our perception of whatever we see, it would be in that color as well. So like maybe something that can help people, what if they're feeling this way, is like sometimes thinking about a situation from an outsider's perspective, because it's very easy for our emotions to cloud our own judgment. Don't you agree as well?
Yeah, and I think Vicky and I have talked about this a lot, like how during math classes time just seems to go so slowly. Most of our classes, whether we like the class or we don't like the class, I think that's like a huge factor. If we like the class, it goes so fast, and if we don't like the class, it seems to go slowly.
That is true. Like definitely. I mean, as you can, that time is actually very constant, but definitely we see in different ways, and that's true for all of us, I guess, as you explained.
Yeah, and I think especially because of like the lockdown, you feel like time is going so slowly, because everything is not how you want it to be. There are so many things that you want to change about the current circumstances, and because of that, it feels like time is going so slow. So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, so like let's move on to another thing that I wanted to discuss. So like we were talking about the lockdown, and so how do you all like interact with your friends, and like how's communication as a whole changed due to the lockdown and the pandemic?
I think it's
um
definitely less like compared to before, and I'm definitely more socially awkward now, like after this 7 months of being quarantined.
Oh yeah, I mean I've forgotten how to talk to people in person.
yeah, I was talking to my mom the other day, and she's like, I've forgotten how to interact, I've forgotten how to greet people. Like if we have any guests, am I supposed to shake their hand or what? Like personally, I've been talking to my friends and family a lot less. It's hurting me, and it's like it makes me so sad that there's so much less interaction. But I also need to think about how much everyone has going on. I never know the ins and out of everyone's situation. And even though it pains me, and I've been guilty of like being too lazy to reply, it pains me that like how much less interaction is that. Yeah.
Mhm. So, like along the similar lines, how do you maintain friendships during this time? Because, like, I think that's an issue a lot of people face. It's like, as I said, the distance is increasing, and like if you were friends who used to meet all the time before, like school friends, and now you just don't meet at all, and you don't have that sort of texting relationship. How do you think, like, how do you maintain that connection with people?
I think it's all about effort, maybe. That the more effort you
Mm.
put in, maybe the more you get back. So that's like the key, I believe. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think
I
with
mean,
friendships, everyone. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, no, no. Please continue. Continue.
So what I was saying was, I think in friendships, everyone talks so extensively about the importance of communication, being open. But I think it's easier said than done a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the times. Um, some people, because everyone's mood changes on a daily basis. This day you may feel like a social butterfly, and the next day you just feel like staying in bed the whole day. Um, so yeah, communication is extremely important. I agree with that 100%. Not just with friends, with your family. um, you know Communication is
Mm-hmm.
extremely important. But I think with friends, what's more important is understanding. you know um, Not more important, sorry, but equally as important is understanding. um, and obviously the understanding comes with communication. So once you get to the point where you're you know each other very well, or even if you've just met, understanding of their situation is important, like extremely important, because not only does that allow you access to their feelings, their emotions, their personal life if they want you, um, it also allows you to know each other m- so much more better.
I mean, yeah, like whatever you said, I agree to that, like to some extent. But like, it's been much harder maintaining like friendships, and like, I feel like it shouldn't be like you shouldn't be held accountable and responsible for being like for maintaining a friendships and always being the more mature one. Because like, let's be honest, these are like messed up times, and it's not easy to put in that effort as you mentioned sometimes. And like, I think it's more than enough to just be happy and like content on your own. So yeah, I mean, I feel like if certain friend, like, you shouldn't feel bad about not interacting with people, because it's very difficult during these times, at least in my opinion. That's what I think.
That's true, definitely. Like, I'm putting in zero effort, like, compared to what I said before. I'm putting in zero effort. Like, I don't talk to people anymore. Like, that's just the truth. But I think that it's very important to do so. But I think it's fine to, let something fizzle out on their own. But I think that overall, we are going to get back to our original environment, hopefully. So I think that it's important to start building the social skills slowly, and get back to how we were.
Yeah, and I think another like really cool, not as cool, but everyone is going through like a similar situation. A lot of the times, when conflicts or problems occur, you may not know exactly what's happening, but right now we're all experiencing something extremely similar, because we're all experiencing COVID. And everyone is dealing with it differently. Every household has it hard in their own way, but what we're all looking forward to is the end of it. So on that
Hmm.
basis we can share a lot, so I think that's great.
I mean, yeah. So another thing we actually had on our agenda was discussing misconceptions about mental health. And let me just be sure, this subject is extremely touchy to me, and I might make it a bit heated. So I want to talk about something that really frustrates me about mental health, which is the stereotypes and wrong judgments people have about, mental health in general. So like, let's start off with the misinformed opinion or stereotype that annoys me the most, and then we'll go on to someone else. So like, for me, it's the stereotype of like the stereotype around OCD. So like I assume both of you know what OCD is. It's obsessive
Yeah.
concessive disorder.
Compulsive.
Oh, sorry, yeah, my bad. Obsessive compulsive disorder. So when people say that they are OCD, firstly, that's grammatically incorrect, and that that really angers me because OCD is not something you are; it's something that you have. And secondly, OCD isn't just worrying about things being cleaned and organized. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of people would have this image or this stereotype in their mind of what a person with OCD is like. Like, they can keep their desk organized, they get annoyed when things aren't in place. And although this may be true for some individuals with OCD, it's so much more than that. Obsessive compulsive disorder is a mental illness that causes repeated unwanted thoughts or sensations or obsessions or the urge to do something over and over again. OCD isn't about habits like biting your nails or just obsessing over negative thoughts. An example of an obsessive thought might also be, certain number of colors are good and bad, or like like associating like certain colors or numbers as being good or as bad. A compulsive habit might be like that someone has to wash their hands exactly 7 times after they touch something. And the hardest part in these obsessions and compulsions is that they're beyond the person's control. Now I know that some people might be saying, "Hey, Arav, buddy, I also have these obsessions and compulsions. Like I can only eat the red M&Ms." Yes, but for a person with OCD, as I mentioned earlier, these compulsions are not enjoyable. They significantly interfere with their day-to-day life. And if these things do apply to you, then maybe you should, consult someone who can help you out with it. Talk to an adult about it and get yourself diagnosed. Someone who can provide you with the appropriate resources. I'm sorry for going on this long rant, but like when people say I am OCD, it gets under my skin. So with
No,
the what
I think you. No, I think you touched upon a
yeah,
really important topic and you addressed it quite well. So, like, yeah, thank you.
yeah, I
No, I
mean,
think definitely, like, you're right. And people often confuse being perfectionist and being a germaphobe to actually having OCD. They're very different things. And I think for me, a similar kind of misconception would be anxiety versus nervousness and fear. So people often confuse the terms. So anxiety is an emotion, it's true, but anxiety is more of panic and you losing a proportion. So, for example, if I am nervous about taking a flight, I have fear. But for example, if I think that my flight's going to crash and I'm thinking about it all the time, that's anxiety. But an anxiety disorder would be maybe for weeks before my flight, I'm having dreams and nightmares about my flight crashing. And although it's possibility, it's not probable. It's you totally blow things out of proportion. So that gets on my nerves because people often confuse these terms very often, very frequently. So there's nervousness, anxiety, and anxiety disorder, and they're all different things.
yeah, I mean, I feel like when people like exaggerate a lot of things, it kind of undermines the mental illness itself. Like for example, even like something like depression, it's a very serious illness. And when people say, I'm feeling depressed, well, you may be feeling really sad about something, but like seeing that I'm feeling depressed, it's not really correct. And perhaps it's not even the people's fault in fact, because like a lot of people aren't aware of what a mental illness is compared to an emotion. So I think it's glad that
Yeah.
we are clearing up these stereotypes, especially like ones that really get under, like that really annoy us, or really like so, like issues that we connect with. So I think that's
Yeah.
great. And like just like to the audience like listening to this, read up about mental illnesses, because they're a lot more complicated than they appear.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And a lot of times, people have these misconceptions of what the mental illness is exactly. I know you touched upon OCD. So there's this show called Monk. It's like a detective show, and the the protagonist, Monk, he's the main character. He's basically the detective, and he goes around solving all of these crimes. And he has OCD, and how they portray him is he always his house is very tidy. When he takes his pills, he opens it up and and separates the color of the pills. So I think a lot of the time, people can sort of take these stereotypes, take these misconceptions, and then they feel like that's what it is, because media is such a huge industry, and
Yeah.
pretty much all the age group, it's not subject to a specific age group, a specific gender, specific sex, whatever it is. Everyone has some exposure to media, or like the general public, and whatever the stereotype is, it exists like all over the world. You can
Hmm.
see stereotypes literally everywhere you go. So when people like look at that and you know then conclude that that's what it is, I mean, it's basically false information and can be quite dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, as someone who loves movies a lot, unfortunately, the entertainment industry does paint a picture of mental health which is heavily biased. Like, like terms like shrink, or things like
Yeah.
that, like calling people like mental. Like, it's sort of normalized by entertainment. It's becoming better now, surely, because people are
Yeah.
getting more and more informed. But it's
Mhm.
like this, those, like as you said, those stereotypes and those like pictures that people have of mental illnesses, like of a mental asylum, people being in straight jackets, they still exist and
Yeah.
they still heavily influence our society, I feel.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah.
Okay, so now we have another part of this podcast. Ooh, it's time to put all of us on the spot. So a few days ago, before recording, or like about a week ago or something, we put out a Q&A on our Instagrams to ask you, the audience, what are your concerns and questions about mental illnesses. So should we
Oh.
start with the question, guys?
Yeah, sure.
So the first question we got was, how do I deal with anxiety and loss? Does anyone
Well,
want to
that's
take that?
I mean, loss is difficult. And I think that the first step as a person supporting someone who has dealt with loss is maybe to accept that you don't know what they're going through. You can't imagine what they're going through. And then maybe afterwards, understanding that everyone deals with this differently and everyone grieves differently over different periods of time in different ways. And I think it's important to accept that as a first step towards then helping them out.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think like it's important to realize, like, on just building on your style, just like it's important to realize everyone processes loss in a different way. And like another thing I would recommend is talking to an adult. Like, this is not because I think adults are smarter than teenagers. I think we are pretty smart, but it's just that they have experienced a lot of life and they are emotionally mature. Their brains also more mature. So I feel like just talking to an adult could really help. So like my recommendation to whoever you are, just talk to an adult, and it's okay. You need to realize it's okay, and yeah, just get the help you need, and I hope you feel better soon.
Yeah, or
uh
you can, I think you can also talk to someone who's experiencing something similar, with
mhm.
loss, like a family member, a close friend, whoever, you know, whoever you've lost, unfortunately. If
Mhm.
there's someone who can really support you and someone who may be experiencing the same thing, it's nice to always have someone to relate to, and
Yeah.
that can like go a really long way and make you feel a lot better when you have someone to relate to and who's there for you.
And
So
also like a
let's,
person, sorry,
yeah, no, no, with the continue.
like also like a person, it's important that you reach out to people because most of the time people are very they don't know what to do with you because uh they just have the nervous and scared because they don't know what you're going through. So it's important that you reach out as well. Anyone that you think you can trust, not just adults, like your friend, anyone.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah.
I think like we covered that pretty well. So here's another one. At what point do we say and draw the line between our emotions and say yes, we have a mental illness? Oof. Raya, do you want to take this one?
This is a tough one. um so where do you draw the line? Okay, so suppose you feel like I'm showing symptoms, uh I think I have this, I think I have that. Is it, first you need to ask yourself, is it interfering with your daily life? Is it
Mm.
bothering you? Is it something that's really hindering you on a daily basis? And it's whether it's affecting you in school, at work, at college, whatever it is, whatever the supposed illness is, how serious is it? Like, to what extent is it hindering you? Is it, a burden on you?
Is it
Does
like
it,
coming in the way of your day-to-day
yeah,
life?
is it a liability?
Yeah.
And is it like, and if you feel like you're not able to be yourself, you're not able to attain something that's really important to you because of that, well, then maybe you can uh, classify it as a mental illness with the help of, a psychologist, a therapist, a counselor, whoever it is. um, and then you can go ahead and take the necessary steps to tackle it.
So boom, there's your answer for you, viewer. Understand your issue, reflect with yourself, and if these things do apply to you, it's coming in the way of your life, your livelihood, it's interfering and becoming a liability,
Mm,
then do seek help and don't be afraid to ask for help. That's really important as well.
yeah.
So moving on, here's another one. Someone else said, since mental health is stigmatized in India, what are other ways we can confront our emotions? Okay, so like this is on from the top of my head. Like the stigma see, like India is such a diverse country, and like the literacy gap in like various parts of India is so huge that to say it's stigmatized in India, yes, on average we can say like as a collective it is, but like in your particular social context, like let's say in our group, I don't think mental health is stigmatized like between me and my friends. So I think that the
Mhm.
first step someone should take is to normalize it in your own, in your own friend group. Like talk
Yeah.
about it with your friends. If your friend's going through something, tell them, hey, listen, I'm there for you. And if you like, validate your friends emotions, and validate your own emotions as well. So I think like these are some baby steps we can take on our own to confront our emotions.
And
Yeah,
I think
I
our
agree.
viewer said that they feel that therapy is stigmatized in India. So I think that uh, essentially it's all about confronting what you feel. It's like your therapist holds a mirror up for you. So maybe journaling, reflecting on what you actually going through, maybe that might help. Is what I think maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if I can just add upon that, I completely understand where this person is coming from. I think mental health is stigmatized in India, and whether we want to look at this as a generational problem or um, a sex problem or a gender problem, that's also subjective. But I think what is extremely crucial, especially in this moment in time when we're so unsure about everything, is to push mental health awareness and knowledge. We need to have more mental health education in schools.
Mhm.
Whether I think even if you're looking at this from the sixth grade, I think it's important for them also like to be aware about it, and whether you're like worried about how it might affect them. This is like something that's extremely common, and if you want to like keep concealing it, it's not going to solve any problem. So I think that definitely we need to push mental health awareness, mental health knowledge. And I think another problem is the media. You need to like make them more aware. I don't know how you're going to make them more aware, but mental health is so misrepresented in the media. So definitely you need to like push mental health awareness, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think both of you just covered the grounds there. So we'll just end with one last question. When will people take mental health seriously? Oh, that's easy. When they listen to this podcast. So, yeah, I think we should
Let's
end.
hope so.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should end on that, semi positive note, sort of. This has been quite a heavy topic, not as fun as last time, like, last episode's topic. But I just want to say a huge thank you to Raya and Vidhi for coming on. I think it's great that more and more people are talking about mental health, and I'm so proud of them for taking this initiative. Remember, mental health is just as important as physical health. Thank you for listening, and if you enjoyed, please remember to leave a like. And why not share it with your friends and family? If you want to keep up with our videos, please feel free to subscribe and follow us on our Instagram at underscore CFRP underscore. Also, whatever articles and studies that we refer to during this podcast, we will link it in the description, as well as other helplines and other resources. Thank you.